I know he said he quit, but he actually shut down government and left himself in charge at a crucial time in Canadian history. And it turns out we may have a way out of this, and it's through Great Britain. Ladies and gents, welcome back. I know I've said this before, but we're in a pickle. We're in a pickle in Canada where we have a new president coming in the United States who wants to acquire the country. And it sounds serious now. And we have a prime minister who has shut down the government. He's prorogued the government and left himself in charge only for the next few months. Precarious time in Canadian history, by the way. To call all the shots. That's right. And while that's all happening, we have the U.S. we have the sharks are circling us, and the U.S. is looking to acquire us and embarrassing us on the world stage.
All right, Premier. By the way, I loved your brother. We did an interview. Great guy. Yeah, what's your problem with the United States absorbing Canada?
Well, first of all, Jesse, you know, I love the U.S. I love Americans. And I get it. You know, President-elect Trump is a real estate tycoon. He's made billions, but that property's not for sale. As simple as that. But I have a better idea, Jesse. Why don't we create Fortress Amcan and make sure it's the richest, wealthiest, most prosperous jurisdiction in 2 countries anywhere in the world? We have the critical minerals, we have the energy, we have the electricity that America needs. And there's only—
We're just coming across as weak. I'm sorry. I got to cut it short. Sorry, Dougie boy. But Doug's trying to do something. He has zero power to make any negotiations. Who does? This is the only guy. This is really where we're at in Canada at the moment. And why is that? Well, it's because of the prorogation of Parliament. He's left himself in charge at the helm while nobody else can do anything about it. Andrew Scheer did a press conference yesterday talking specifically about this.
Well, good morning. Today, the Public Accounts Committee was supposed to meet to start the consideration of a non-confidence motion in this Liberal government. Rather than allow that to happen, Justin Trudeau has selfishly shut down Parliament to avoid accountability. That non-confidence motion was being moved because after 9 years of Trudeau's government and this Liberal Party running the country, Canadians have been suffering through so much misery. Families going to food banks for the first time in their lives, families with—
We know all the reasons for it, so I'll spare you all of that. But this is the situation. Justin Trudeau has done this out of a political expedience for him and for his party. And this has come into question. This has really come into question because is there a Canadian precedence for this? No, but we are a parliamentary system. So this is where it gets really interesting. Now, Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has launched a lawsuit against the government for the reason of prorogation, suggesting that it's illegal what they actually did here. Now, never before in history has Canada has citizens legally challenged the Prime Minister's advice accepted by the Governor General of Canada to prorogue Parliament. Where it gets tricky is proroguing Parliament to avoid political trouble. That's really what it comes down to in this case. Constitutional lawyer James Manchin addresses the Prime Minister's January 6th announcement. It's kind of ironic that it was on Jan 6th. Like, where's the real insurrection? It's with Canada and the Prime Minister of Canada. Yeah, until March 24th, 2025. And he addresses it right here. And this is very interesting.
However, where it gets tricky is that you can't have it done. You can't prorogue Parliament to avoid political trouble. That's really what it comes down to in this case. Our case is remarkably similar. That's how, anyway, we will argue the point, to the case in 2019. When Prime Minister Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom, he attempted to prorogue Parliament for 5 weeks out of 8. And the timing was very, very tricky because, as you guys may recall, that was when the Brexit was coming, and they needed to have an agreement with the European Union about how to exit from the EU. And if they didn't, there could be a hard exit, and it would have been very catastrophic economically, politically, for the UK and maybe for the EU. So anyway, Prime Minister Johnson at the time, decided anyway to prorogue Parliament for 5 weeks of the 8 remaining weeks leading up to the Brexit. And essentially, he wanted to avoid scrutiny from Parliament. He wanted to avoid the tough questions, avoid all of the mess in the House of Commons that was happening at the time. And so ultimately, this led to a challenge like the one that we've brought today. And the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom ruled unanimously, 11 to 0, that the exercise of the prorogation power by Prime Minister Johnson to advise, at that point, the Queen, to prorogue was unlawful. And essentially what the Supreme Court of the UK said at that point was that you can't, in the course of proroguing, you can't frustrate or prevent the ability of Parliament to oversee the government, to do its job, which is to oversee the government, to supervise the government. Because as we all,
especially in a time like today, where Donald Trump is looking at Canada like, oh, I'm just going to take you, in a situation where it's Justin Trudeau at the helm. Of course, we should have the Parliament responding to this, not Justin Trudeau unilaterally.
No, it's Parliament that is the supreme body in a Western parliamentary system. It's Parliament, not the government. It's Parliament as an entire body that is actually the supreme body of the country. So in any event, that's what we're saying happened in this case. We are suggesting that, like what happened in the UK when Prime Minister Johnson did what he did to really frustrate the will of Parliament to supervise the government, we're suggesting in the same vein that in this particular case, the Prime Minister has prorogued Parliament in order to really gain some political advantage here. He has given us his reasons, as you all know from yesterday's press conference. The reasons are to reset, not legislative resetting, but to reset the tone or the acrimony that he's been seeing in the House. Well, there's a way to do that. It's called have an election.
I like that. I absolutely like that. The way to do that is to have an election. We should be going forward in that. We should be going forward. And the real crux of it is the Conservatives had a motion that was to be tabled, and it was a motion of non-confidence, which would have put us into an election immediately. We would have immediately gone to an election. Who cares about the Liberal Party? Who cares about what they've been going through? Famously, Pierre Poilievre recently saying they shouldn't have to, the Canadian people shouldn't have to wait while they sort out their stuff. That's the reality of the situation, and the Liberals are trying to play a game with Canada at a very crucial time as Donald Trump is coming into office. Now, mind you, I am a fan of Donald Trump, but what he's doing, like, is this what Canadians want? And we're not going to find out if we are not represented. Clearly, Justin Trudeau only having 16% approval rating within his own party. His approval rating is virtually zero with the rest of the country. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. I'm glad to see lawsuits coming forward, and hopefully it's expedient. Hopefully it's quick. Hopefully they can put this process through quickly enough to see what the courts decide. I hope that British parliamentary precedent can be shown here in Canada, and we'll see moving forward. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.